Planning and Development Committee meeting for May 19th, 2025. Counselor Andrews.
Here.
Waltney here. Wolverton. Sims.
Here.
And Nell.
Here. All right. All here. Thank you. All right, I'll begin with the motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes from the last meeting of April 21st. All those in favor? Thank you. Sorry. I just started. I was going too fast. Sorry. Counselor Nell, second from Counselor Gwaltney. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0. Okay, old business. Request for consideration of rezone property at 101 and 109 to 109 Hughes Circle, consisting of 9 residential lots. I have been in communication with John Chapman. I feel very comfortable that we will make some sort of movement on that June 16th. So without objection, we're going to continue to carry that over. Next items we are going to hear together, and that is, that is also the same for 1302-25. Request for consideration of a final development plan for property at 101 and 109 Hughes Circle. Again, without objection, we're going to carry that over. I anticipate to make some sort of movement on that June 16th. All right, we are going to move over and hear the next 4 items together. That is 0904-25, consideration rezone 1601 Parkview Lane, and 600 and 601 University Park Place. That had a Planning Commission voted 9-0 in favor of that recommendation for rezoning. 1004-25 public hearing set for June 9th. Final development plan for the same property, 1601 Park Lane and Parkview Lane and 600-601 University Park Place. Planning Commission 6-3 favorable recommendation. 1104-25 public hearing set for June 9th. Rezone 1891, 1919, 1921 South Lake Shore Drive and 1100 University Park Place. Planning Commission had a vote of 7-2 favorable recommendation. 1204-25 public hearing set for June 9th. Consideration of final development plan for the same 1891, 1919, 1921 South Lake Shore and 1100 University Park Place. Planning Commission had a 5-4 vote for a favorable recommendation. All right, the way it's going to go tonight, we have a 6 o'clock council meeting. I'm sure we are going to run over. If Landmark is ready to go, let's try to keep that at 30 minutes. Is that possible? And then I would like to give the committee and the council, I'm going to hear from a few other folks that have been in regular communication with us with some issues that they have would like to identify. And but that's it. Everyone else on June the 9th, please join us. That will be open for every single person who wants to speak to come and speak. So tonight we're just going to hear from a couple of representative folks, and then time for any council or committee questions. And then if we can make it to council by 6:10, I feel great about that. Go ahead.
Can you, since we've got a lot of people here who were not here at 3:45, can you give a summary? Do you want me to give a summary?
Why don't you get, yeah, so for those who were not here for the 3:45 Finance Committee meeting, it's been a long night already, the mayor is going to give us an update on the financial incentive / abatement package that has been requested by Samford. That really, again, all of this to be considered really is one complete proposal.
Just so everyone understands, that has to go through Finance Committee, this has to go through Planning and Development, that's why they're divided up. Samford and Landmark did present at 3:45 with their proposal. That proposal, I'm going to summarize it. They may put it a little bit differently than I am, but I think I'm getting everything accurate. That is for the city to abate, not abate, to share, I guess is the technical, the legal term, because it's to share the taxes. But what we would be sharing is to give Samford and Landmark 100% of the ad valorem lodging and sales tax that came off this property, except for what goes to schools, for 20 years with a cap of $26 million. So I just want everyone to be aware of that as this presentation goes on, because I think it's part of what everyone should consider.
It's a 3-legged stool. It all
Yep.
goes together. Okay, we're ready. All right. Brian, you got anything to show? Okay.
Good evening.
You're up.
Bob Dunn with Landmark Development. I'm going to keep this very brief, just in the interest of, you've got a full agenda already. Trying to help you get through that. Just a couple points that we wanted to touch on. just to speak to some of the issues that we've heard, you know, in a more consistent manner. Not to say there aren't a lot of other issues we could speak to, and I think tomorrow we're gonna post on the website an FAQ that gets into more detail on some of the more specific issues.
Not to interrupt you, can, for anyone who's here for the first time, because this really is the first time that we've heard this in the Planning and Development Committee at the City Council level. So I've heard it at Planning Commission, I know a lot of people are in tune, and they've seen the presentations throughout the city. Can you just do a very brief overview of the actual project?
Sure.
So just as it looks like on a map.
Right. Best way to explain it is on the map.
There it is.
So this is the Creekside West development as proposed. Just to give you some orientation, Samford is to the north across Lakeshore Drive. The high school is to my right. You can see the ball field. That's part of the high school property. And then this property is currently in the center is where the Samford soccer and track complex is. Surface parking to the west, the existing office building where it says University Park Place. So this is the basic development plan for Creekside West. It's a combination of mixed use elements, proposed hotel, mixed use meaning some office, some residential. And then the center point, and really each of the buildings around that B2 building where it says community would have a concentration of what we think of as lifestyle, retail, dining, entertainment. You know, we've been asked what period of time do we think this will be developed over? Typically, something like this would be about a 7 to 10 year development plan. You know, part of what we focused on is working under your new zoning category for mixed use, working with city staff. In certain respects, we're trying to predict the future and lay out a plan that we believe we can execute on, and I think we've done a good job of that, just anticipating the different uses, which is really based on market research that we've done where we know there's demand for certain types of uses. So is that helpful? Does that give enough of a?
And do you also want to mention the east side or what, I know you need to, yeah.
Is that, so what you just saw involves both a rezoning to the new MXD zoning category and an approval of the development plan as per the plan that you just saw. That's Creekside West. Creekside East, you'll see an image here in a minute, is obviously the property further to the east. As that was proposed, would involve basically a rezoning of that property because the uses there now are currently non-conforming. So the plan there is basically to bring the zoning current with an institutional category of zoning so that the uses, the recreational uses of those fields and what have you would become conforming.
The uses don't change from current.
Correct. Correct. So Creekside East basically is what you see here now. It's the intramural rec fields the university has. There's some parking there and there's ancillary outbuildings, but basically this site would be rezoned and the uses would more or less continue as they are today.
Can I ask a clarification about that really quick?
Yeah.
Did we advertise for the public hearing the plan amendment for Creekside East?
We did, we advertised the map that shows the existing as-built improvements.
Okay, thank you.
So specifically, what is gonna happen on Creekside East per your development plan proposal?
No.
I know we talked about the track is not gonna move there anymore.
Correct.
So tell us exactly what is gonna happen, and you're just submitting the survey, the existing survey of the land, or what is gonna happen on Creekside East for your proposal?
Yeah, we're beginning to, with our DAG group, our advisory group, we're starting to look at ways that, consistent with how we always talked about Creekside East, ways that we can improve access, awareness, education in the whole Creekside East and Creekside West development. Creating better connection to, to the lakes or to the Creekside path, creating potentially a network of trails and what have you to really create much more of a community asset here than what's there today. So those plans are just beginning to evolve, but that's something that we've had quite a bit of time and attention on over these last several months. So, hopefully as we get further along, those things will start to take on more definition.
Bob, have you talked to the Board of Education? I mean, those new parking lots, I thought the Board of Education built, obviously are on y'all's land, that road to the right.
No.
No,
No, those are ours.
Here?
Those are,
Yeah,
right
right
above
below
the
the
high school
Creekside
to the
East.
right.
Yeah.
After your finger, yeah,
yes.
right there, yes. It looks like a ruler.
Above.
right here?
Slice,
Yes.
Is that not Homewood High School parking lots?
Yeah.
They just built 2 years ago?
It is there.
Aye.
We're not changing, we're not touching that.
Okay.
Let
That
me-
just,
Okay.
Let me say this again. The east side is exactly what's there.
Okay.
That's what's been proposed, and that's what's been advertised, and nothing else can be built unless there's a
but we just need to change the zoning to what it should be, correct?
institution.
Okay. So that's,
So if you got new trails, new things like that, you're gonna have to come back
Correct,
for east.
correct.
So, Mike, would we drop the development plan request then, that?
No, the development plan that's attached is the as-built survey of the existing improvements.
Okay, all right,
I think it has to go with that, please.
okay.
just doesn't have
I'm
any
sorry,
new
all right.
It has no change in what's there today. And if you propose something different, then you need to speak up, because we need to advertise it again.
great, thanks.
Okay.
So that gives you the background on both Creekside East, Creekside West. Some of the issues that we've continued to work on, and we've had, you know, a good amount of conversation on all these and many others. Want to keep the list more focused for this evening, but number one, Shades Creek, salamander habitat. You know, a lot of time and effort went into this, I think more than anything else. This is an excellent example of how the process can work. It was through community engagement and creation of our DAG and what have you that this is probably the one area where we saw, with the original plan for Creekside East, no matter how we went about it, there was going to be some negative outcome. You know, it's just unavoidable. How negative, you know, was something, a lot of discussion, a lot of debate happened around that. Saw ways that we could potentially, you know, mitigate some of those impacts, but even with that, there were gonna be some negative outcomes. So, because of that, the whole idea here is how can we do something with the investment that's coming with Samford Horizons and Creekside that is only additive to the community. That's sort of been the underpinning of this whole plan from the beginning. So in this case, we couldn't get there, and a decision was made, let's just pull back on the idea of developing Creekside East, other than we're starting to look at some ways to really make it a, you know, a community asset, which understood we'd have to come back with that in time. So we took that off the table. Point number two, community facilities. Kind of the same set of factors here. As we began to look and continue to look at ways that in time we could address the track and soccer complex with Samford, we began to look at opportunities of how we could potentially relocate those facilities. There is no particular plan, there is no particular solution. We raised the question after talking with some city staff about the potential of doing that in conjunction with the city on the properties to the west. That is not a formal proposal, I want to be absolutely clear on this. It was an idea, and really all we're after with track and soccer is in time, to the extent that those move to allow for further development of Creekside West, and dollars have to go into those facilities, wherever they would go, how can we do that in a way that would be additive for the community overall? Not just for Samford, but potentially for the community. But that's down the road. That's something that we'll come back to at some point in time if Creekside West is proceeding. So, to be clear, that's not on the table. There's a set of ideas there. There's different thoughts about where that could be done. Some things maybe on campus, elsewhere. That's something that we'll solve for in time. But there is nothing, you know, that's formally on the table with respect to the city of Homewood. Third point is height of the hotel. We spent a lot of time on that. We're certainly open to ways to reduce the height of the hotel at the will of the city, if that's something that would make a difference in advancing Creekside West. We've got some thoughts on how we could accommodate that. And the fourth point, which is probably the discussion that we've been having the most lately, is, you know, this notion that it's too big for Homewood. And not gonna stand here and suggest that it's not a big project. It is a big project, certainly by Homewood standards. But I would just ask you to not overlook the fact that because this is the first instance where you've advanced a mixed-use development zoning, I believe that's a fair statement, under the new zoning category,
Is it Westward?
it causes us to have to look at the project in its entirety. Right, if we did this a building at a time, as we've talked about, you would end up over time, accumulating to the same size of project that we're contemplating today. It's just when you take it all in one, sort of application, it just causes us to think about the project being of a scale that it is and put it in perspective. We're looking at something that could be $700–800 million of development over time. We're about to finish almost $300 of development on campus right now. That's been done over the last 18 months. So in scale, these are big numbers. Wouldn't have been that many years ago. What's $700–800 million today would have been about $300–400 million. So the numbers are big. But that's just a point that we want to try and be clear on is when you take this in its entirety and you think of that program all coming together over a period of time in phases, and you accumulate what the value is of that, it is a big number. And I'm not in any way suggesting it's not a big project, but we don't feel it's out of scale with the nature and type of development that's occurring on campus or the type of development that's occurred along the whole Lakeshore Drive corridor. And then that translates into the fiscal impacts. One of the things that to us really has stood out with this project is it does drive a significant fiscal impact to the city and the school district. And to us, that's one of the kind of the four key pillars of the project in terms of how it can really support quality of life in Homewood, is a significant driver of tax base. And with that, a significant driver of tax base to city schools. And knowing that you have, the looming realities of building and maintaining schools, which, it's no different there. The costs are just hard to even imagine. See this as a vehicle that could significantly support strengthening quality of education in Homewood. So there's a lot more we can discuss there. Just wanted to touch on these quick factors and happy to open it up and answer any questions.
Good job on time. Okay, I'm going to I've got a couple people have identified to speak. Lant is one of them.
Lant.
Yeah. If you come
Ready?
up, yes, if you'll come up, if you will give your name and address, so both can see you sign in, and.
My name is Lant Davis. I reside at 140 University Park Drive. That's in the Brookdale development. And I appreciate the opportunity to come here and address the committee about this huge development that will be in our backyard. First, I want to make sure that all of you have a copy of the petition that our homeowners association have signed, and is it in the public record?
I have, yes.
It is.
And it is in the public record?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right. So I won't go back through every point that I made in the petition. I just quickly note the construction traffic for, I thought 8 years, I just heard maybe 10 years. And that's at a time when probably 3 to 8 times a day, the fire and rescue comes from Homewood to Brookdale to answer an emergency call. And I think a lot of our folks are concerned that it might be difficult for them to get through if there is an 18-wheeler across the bridge. Then after the thing is built, we have the ongoing traffic on Lakeshore. Landmark says they may come up with some plan for additional lanes, but that's very much unspecified. And even with the additional lanes, they admit that this project is going to increase the amount of traffic on Lakeshore, which is already over I think, over what Lakeshore was built to accommodate. Anybody who has been on Lakeshore Drive between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the evening can attest to that. Flooding is a major issue. As I pointed out in our petition, our homes, our 48 garden homes, and what we call the big house and the nursing home are all built on a raised earthen platform. That's why we're not in the flood zone. But I can tell you, my back door faces the walking trail, and after huge rains, I have gone out and I have seen the water within feet of the top of that building platform. So I'm very concerned about what happens if more stormwater drainage goes into Shades Creek. And I've seen and heard absolutely no details about how that is going to be handled. Sanitary sewage. I don't know why this is, but so often when there's a heavy rain, when you walk along the trail, especially right in front of Brookdale and then again down closer to Columbiana Road, there's a fetid septic smell. And you can see that somebody, I assume it's the County Department of Public Health, has come out and spread lime around. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that that sewage system is already at capacity or beyond. So what will happen when all of these additional toilets and lavatories and everything else from the 500 housing units and the hotel all go into the sewage system? Again, no details from Landmark or Samford about how any of that is going to be handled. We've talked about the wildlife. I appreciate that the DAG has worked to try to save the salamanders. But there's lots of other wildlife out there as well. And frankly, I'm a little perplexed. What is Samford going to do with their championship soccer team when Samford bulldozes the soccer field and the track development and puts up housing there? They wanted to go to the Homewood soccer park. That's what we heard. And already there's been a lot of public pushback on that. So where are they going to send their soccer team? I think there's something that we're not hearing. Something's not coming out yet. Looks to me like that's a problem that has to be solved before this development can be believable. I just don't see Samford eliminating those athletic fields in order to have this new commercial development. The aesthetics are very important to me, and that is, as you walk along the trail, it feels like a wooded area. It's nice to ride your bicycle, to walk your dog, jog, and I can tell you that there are hundreds, if not thousands of people every day before dawn and after dark on that trail. It's an important community resource for Homewood. And I just imagine now walking down the trail and looking at the backside of a 150-story hotel. It's just going to change the character of that property. Okay, so those are our objections, and even if the salamanders have been saved, that's just one piece of what we don't like about what they're proposing. So we are still opposed to the project, notwithstanding that change. I don't know whether Homewood has the power legally to actually stop this project. Our friend from Chicago has made the statement in public hearings that really they already have all the authority and rights that they need to do this, except for the height of the hotel. He implied to the group that if they would reduce the height of the hotel, they could do all this even though they won't, without any change in zoning. I'll leave it to you all to decide whether that's the case. What we would like is for Homewood, for our government, our elected representatives, to stop this. Stop it. If you don't stop it, then you need to address the sequencing. Because the way it has come up, you're being asked to approve the development plan, which has all these buildings that you saw on there, all the things that Samford and Landmark want. But the development plan doesn't include any of the protective, ameliorative investments that will be necessary to lessen the damage that all of these buildings are going to do. So that's why our petition makes the additional point that if you feel like for whatever reason you have to go forward with this, please figure out a way to retain jurisdiction over the project so that you haven't signed all of your approval rights away at this point, leaving everyone to the mercies of Samford and Landmark about how much they're willing to do to ameliorate the harm that their project will cause. Thank you very much.
John Manzelli, or John.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, sir. My name is John Manzelli. I live at 500 Lakeshore Drive. I am directly across the street from this development. I know I've emailed everyone. I apologize for the excessive emails. But my opposition to this is not just personal. It's about the entire community. I'm going to relay echo a number of points. I have 4 key questions in opposition. 1, is there public support and trust for this? 2, is this project viable? 3, does the benefits of this project outweigh the harm? And 4, does Homewood really need this? In terms of public support and trust, I speak for 307 Homewood residents who've signed an online petition for change.org. Apparently there's another petition out. I have no idea how many more people would sign petitions at this point. From the start, Samford has pushed this through zoning as fast as possible. They have not built public trust no matter what they say in these meetings. The most glaring example of this is when they pulled a PR nightmare by claiming to have worked with the city on a plan to repurpose Homewood soccer and save the salamanders. The next day, our own little soccer club had to come out and actually oppose them in an email. That is the public trust that we're working under right now. That's what the public thinks of this plan. They have not been good actors in this process. Secondly, is this project viable? I have questions because I don't know the answer. Has there been an independent environmental impact study done? To the gentleman's point, do you know how this affects the creek, the wildlife, the salamander habitat, or the runoff? Has there been an independent traffic study done that actually supports placing 1,000 residents and a 150-room hotel on a parcel of land surrounded by 3 sides with no access? You only have Lakeshore Drive. You have soccer fields on one side, you have South Lakeshore on the other side, and you have a high school that you desperately don't want people to try to get out of this complex by whipping around. Is there a real business plan for this? We're talking about a $700 million project. Samford does not run this kind of project. It's a university. And finally, in terms of this hotel, is there a partnership agreement in place with a hotel vendor? Is there a hotelier on record that actually says there's a demand for a 10-story hotel? You cannot wait to figure these things out later. You have to know the answers now. So the question becomes, how does this affect us? Lakeshore Drive, it's obvious, the traffic on Lakeshore Drive. Potential environmental damage, we already talked about. Neighborhood integrity. This place is the tallest building in Homewood, adjacent to our schools and our recreation. It changes the skyline of Lakeshore Drive. It fundamentally changes the character of the city. And it creates high-density housing, commercial zones, and traffic in an area not designed to carry that burden. You have 2 areas on Lakeshore Drive designed to carry commercial burden, and they're next to highways. That's why they're zoned that way. Brookwood needs to be dealt with. It is right now a zombie apocalypse movie set that has to be dealt with. But it's in the right place. It's next to a highway. The other side of Lakeshore Drive has commercial property that's sitting there, readily available, that needs to be developed. It's next to a highway. Homewood does not need this project in the middle of its town. Samford needs the project, and I understand. Homewood does not need this project. And the other reason and I'll leave it at this, the only reason to do this is financial benefit. That's it. But I question how much the financial benefit is going to be to the city and whether we're going to offset the money we bring in from this by the money we're taking away from other commercial venues in our town. For example, Homewood, Samford, which I'm sure they're super smart people, they're going to force all of their residents, their students, to live in this new housing unit. How else would they fill it? What that will mean is all the rental properties you have in Homewood that rent to Samford students will dry up. They will lose all that. So you're basically you're robbing from Paul to pay Peter. Lastly, this puts pressure on the rest of your town. You have a gorgeous downtown. That's why I moved here. I moved here from Miami 6 years ago because I haven't seen cities that have this kind of downtown on our size. You are letting them compete directly against your own town. And you're going to consider giving them a tax abatement in order to fight your own hotels. That's what they're going to do. It's a brilliant plan. Take the tax abatement, use that money to leverage and beat the opposition and the hotels who exist in your town, run them out of business, force everything to you, and then somehow we're going to sit here and say, look how much they did for us. But all the money's going to come from one place. Don't risk your downtown. Don't risk the rest of your community. Don't risk the neighbors who've invested in this town and the neighborhood. That's all I really have to say. I apologize, I'm not a public speaker. I'm not a lawyer. I would rather be home with my kid playing baseball in the backyard because that's why I moved to this town. But I felt the need to come here and address this, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.
So again, a reminder for everybody else, on June the 9th, wide open, anybody who wants to speak is welcome to come and speak. And so tonight, a couple of folks, a representative of the folks that put the petition together, that's who I invited to speak to sort of give the other side of the story. So now I'm going to take 5 minutes or so to let the council or committee, anybody have any questions that they want to ask. And then after we finish that, we're going to move this out without recommendation pending the public hearing on June the 9th. So committee/council, anything you all want to add or ask?
I just have one thing.
Lord.
I know I've heard Samford come a couple times now and say we've met with this group, we've had this ad hoc committee, we're talking to these people. Unfortunately, I haven't heard from any of those people, just to be clear. I don't know that anybody here has.
I've spoken with you.
I have not heard from anybody personally that is in favor of this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying.
I have
Sorry.
received hundreds of emails probably at this point opposing it, in addition to, individual correspondence, just walking into people around town, texting, calling, however else people reach out. I have yet to hear from one individual that is in favor. So I just, if you are leveraging that we are talking to these people and getting buy-in to the point of several tonight, and community involvement and engagement, you're missing the mark in terms of hitting the people you need to hit. Because I'm not hearing it. I already spoke about the soccer stuff. I've coached 2 of my kids' teams. I had to field that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is having to field city business when I'm trying to enjoy my family time. And
what you signed up for.
Exactly.
Not in that format. So I just want to make that clear that I have not heard anything. So if that really is the case, I think you should probably try to get those people to speak out and to correspond with us, because I personally have not heard from anybody in support.
And I thought you were saying you had not talked to anyone on the DAG, and I have.
No,
what
sorry.
I thought you were saying. I have not. I have heard from one person very early on that was in favor, but other than that, I have not. Anyone else want to?
Just a question about the DAG, and Bob, you did reference consideration of potentially reducing the height of the hotel. Obviously, that's been a discussion point in some of the concerns this evening. Is there anything further than from what you shared in your intro in regards to the height of the hotel and what considerations are currently, alternatives are currently in consideration?
Yeah, some of the work we've been doing, over the last weeks is we've been discussing this issue is lowering the height of the hotel so it certainly does not exceed the height of buildings on the Lakeshore Drive corridor, which would bring it from what's been described, not by us, but varying opinions on how high 150 feet could be. Some have said that could be a 15-story hotel. I think if you looked along Lakeshore Drive, it would limit the height of the hotel to, let's say, 9 stories, maybe 10 stories, something in that general range.
And then, I'm sorry,
No, you're good.
just real quick then too, Mayor Wyatt mentioned kind of as the intro to this about the financial ask of this. With everything in consideration, my understanding, and I just want to make sure so everybody, if the financial infrastructure support is not there, then is this project still viable?
Don't believe so.
Councilor Walton?
I just wanted to clarify, largely for the public in the room that may not have heard, tell us a little bit more about the makeup of the apartments, what the intended use is going to be, how many, and how viable that is with or without the bridge crossing over.
So I'll come to the bridge secondly, but the approach to the housing is what we've defined as Samford affiliate housing. What is Samford affiliate housing? Number one, we would anticipate that would include senior, being 55 and over. It would include owner-occupied housing. And then under the more broad definition of Samford affiliate, it would include the ability to market to residents who would have a direct tie to programs aligned with Samford University, which means it could include students, but not undergraduate, likely to be graduate students, law school students, what have you, faculty, staff, that would all have the same benefit of programs that they would pay for as part of their residency in those housing units. So we have to be careful. There are legal requirements that we have to meet. So that's what we're being careful to define, so that anything that we do there meets the standards of FHA and what have you.
Okay. And roughly how many units are you thinking?
If I'm 435.
135. And you have adequate parking on site for those?
Yes.
Okay, so what's gonna happen next is, someone on the committee is gonna make a recommendation to send this out without recommendation pending the public hearing on June the 9th. So when you hear a 5-0 yes vote, that vote is sending this out without recommendation to the full council on June the 9th. No one's voting in favor or against, pending the public hearing. So you may have communicated with us, and we may have replied and said, thank you for your email, we appreciate hearing from you. We can't give our opinion of a project until we hear it at a public hearing. I am on the planning commission, so it's a little different. I've already voted on this project. I voted no for both development plans, but the rest of the city council is waiting to hear at the public hearing. So I just want everyone to know, procedure is sometimes gets tricky. It's fun, it's complicated, I love it. But just so that everyone understands tonight, when you hear a 5-0 vote, that is sending it out without recommendation, pending that public hearing again on June the 9th. I would ask everybody to come. Anyone who wants to speak, you will be there, welcome to speak. So, okay, go ahead.
I don't want to jump in.
Yep,
front.
go ahead.
You can go first. I just had one more procedural thing. So go ahead.
Just from the soccer field perspective, I would like there to be a verbal acknowledgement that that's off the table, personally.
Yeah.
Our soccer fields.
Yeah. I
'Cause
mean,
the reason being,
there is nothing in place or
I agree,
proposed that would.
but I want to hear that from them. And the reason being is because we have a large number of families that are busy, school's getting out, we're ending up soccer season, that are constantly having to keep up with this because they're concerned about the issue. And I hear it nonstop. And like Councilor Wolverton, I would like to give them, some sense of peace and security that is not on the table.
Look, this is obviously y'all's decision, but I would agree with what everyone has said. I don't think anyone's received anything positive about the idea of using the soccer fields, and they are the city soccer fields. So that can't be done without the city's approval, and I have yet to hear anything that would indicate that the city's going to give approval for that. What I did hear tonight was that that Landmark and Samford are exploring other options that don't involve city land. And that's up to them if they do that. But yeah, I don't foresee that there is anything that would come from the city based on what I have heard from counselors and what I have heard from the public. You know, I mean, again, that's y'all's vote. So, but I don't foresee that at all. I don't know what else I can say beyond that, but.
Yeah, was it? Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Well, I'm really trying to put this in the mix.
I'm sorry, it was.
Wait, Alex, did you have more?
Well, you can go first. Mine's really just a cleanup thing.
Just kind of related to this conversation, I mean, Bob, can you confirm that there's currently no plans to use Homewood soccer field? You did this last time as well, but could you just?
Thought I opened there, but let me just say it one more time to be absolutely clear. There is no proposal. Not now. We don't foresee anything on the horizon. There is no proposal for use of the city soccer fields, period.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Is there anything more I can say to clarify this
That's
issue?
it.
All right, Counselor Nels.
Mine is really for Bob as well. I'm Jalete Nelms, I'm the Ward 4 counselor, I'm also the liaison for Samford.
Yes.
And I haven't met with any of you guys. I have met with Dr. Taylor and with Jeff, along with Nick Sims, but when that came up in the media, I was bombarded with calls. Yet, I was not even remotely aware of any of it. And I serve as the liaison for Samford.
Well, apologize for any confusion that's been created and want to be absolutely clear. What we were suggesting and will continue to look for is opportunities that with track, with soccer, if we're going to invest in facilities, that it's done in a way that can have broader benefit to the community wherever that should occur beyond just use by Samford. That was the sole point that we've tried to, took on a bit of a life of its own. Didn't intend that, but just to be clear, that was the sole purpose of our beginning to look at alternatives of how we could build community assets that would have a benefit beyond just Samford University.
Mayor?
One last procedural thing, to build on what you said, Councilor Andrus, which I think is correct, which is we have to have a public hearing on this, and by law, the council has to wait and have that public hearing before anything happens. That's set for June 9th. The incentive package will have to go through a similar process. So just, and I know this gets into the weeds, so I apologize, but I want to make sure that everyone understands. We're sending, or my understanding is the committee is sending out this item without recommendation pending the public hearing. The incentives will trail that, and there's a reason it trails that, is because you can't consider incentives until you know that there's a plan that's been approved. In other words, you have to know what you're giving incentives for. So that's why that will trail that. So there still will be an item in finance about this to continue to consider those incentives in general. But as I said at the beginning, I think it's important that everyone knows what the incentives are, because these are different. I shouldn't say they're different. They're larger and a longer time period than Homewood's ever considered for anything else. And so that has to be part of how everyone talks and considers the project as a whole, because as Bob said, in their mind, this is essential. So I want everyone to be considering the size and scope of those in addition to the development, but the two items have to move through separately.
But, Mr. Mayor, can I say one thing?
Sure.
Can I say one thing?
It's up- it's
I'm
up to
Becky
her. It's
Smith.
up to her.
I'm the committee chair, so if you will sign in and give your address and
How do you
just.
sign in?
Oh,
he's got
Mr.
this.
Seeger's doing that for you, so.
It's Becky Smith, 125 University Park Drive. This is a sort of a positive. I want you to know, I went to a fabulous Samford track meet over there at Samford this weekend, right next door to us. And it was wonderful. And they had, I don't know how many schools they were, but there were lots and lots of schools around for the Southern Conference track meet. There were people staying everywhere, parking everywhere, meeting everywhere, eating everywhere. And my granddaughter came in second in the 10K.
Oh my
I
gosh.
can't imagine running around that many times. But y'all, it was
That's a
so.
big deal.
It was big,
That's a big deal.
And she ended up tying with another girl for the student athlete award for the
that's
Southern
amazing.
Conference. Now, that wasn't why I told you, but I
That's okay.
wanted to tell you because this event was so much fun, so good. And I can't fathom how you could have that with these buildings there. I mean, you'd have to figure out another place to do that because they used every single bit of the land that was there. I couldn't even get my car parked over there. Fortunately, I got dropped off. I should have walked, but I got dropped off. But anyway, I just wanted to say it was a fabulous, fabulous Homewood event with so many people enjoying it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just want,
thing
you
from-
keep making comments about anybody can speak on June the 9th,
Yeah.
and that's true.
Okay.
But what I want to put out as a
As the
public service
president,
message.
he will be facilitating the public
What I'd like
hearing.
to say is like, John, I appreciate you saying, you've got 307. If you can be the spokesman for those 307 people, that would be fantastic. Lance, if you can be the spokesman for all of your residents, it'll really help us. I mean, we literally could be there till midnight. So if we can, I think we kind of understand where we are, but if we can kind of consolidate that and not repeat, that'll make the night an enjoyable evening, but I'm sure we'll be late.
I just want everyone to know that their input is welcome.
Their input is welcome.
Yes.
I'm just saying, I really appreciate speaking for 307 people rather than,
Okay, with that,
Thank you.
I am ready. Mr. Kendrick, can I move all four of these out with one?
Yeah, as long as you
Motion.
understand that, as we talked before, the zoning and the final development plans will be in the same ordinance.
Together, yes.
Because you can't have one without the other.
Can we move all four out with one motion?
Sure.
Make
Okay.
a motion to send out without recommendation
Second that.
pending the public hearing.
All right. All right, and that's for all four motions?
Yes,
Okay.
for all four items.
Okay, so that motion came from Counselor Sims with a second from Counselor Wolverton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those have moved out officially. Wow, that is a big deal. That's a really big deal. Okay, I know it. All right, new business, request for consideration of an amended development plan for property at 800 Lakeshore Drive, for Samford's proposed Bulldog District to permit construction of two separate residential villages together. Planning Commission, we heard this, back at the beginning of May and had a 6-0 vote for a favorable recommendation. I would entertain a motion to set the public hearing, and we will leave this in committee to hear at a later date.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion is from Counselor Nelms with a second from Counselor Gwaltney. That will be for, that public hearing will be for June the 23rd. Thank you. Is that part of your motion, Counselor Nelms?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
and your second?
Yep,
Okay, so
second.
that is gonna be for June 23rd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that passes 5-0. Without objection, we are adjourned.